Hey guys, it's Madison, and today is finally the day that I'm going back to the States for winter vacation. I am so excited to see family and my puppy again for the winter holidays, but before I can do that, I have to embark on this long flight from Korea to the States. However, I have some ideas for how I can make this long, painful, tiring travel day a little more entertaining and fun while also being a language immersive experience. So I'm gonna try this out and see how it goes. And I'm gonna try and take you guys along with me. It's kind of hard to film anything on a plane, especially when the plane is dark for most of the flight, but we'll see how this ends up going. It is currently 1:30 p.m. I need to leave my house around 3:30 p.m. So I have basically 2 hours to finish getting the last few things ready and leave the house to take the taxi to the airport. Then my flight is scheduled to leave at 6:30. Then I have a fairly long layover in Dallas. I think it's like 5 hours, and finally the last little leg to my final stop around 11 o'clock. Yeah, I don't recall exactly how many hours that is of travel, but basically once you include going to the airport and then coming home from the airport once I arrive, it basically turns into a 24-hour travel day, which obviously is quite exhausting, especially since, I've been up since this morning. I had to attend a graduation ceremony, and so I've been, going already for several hours today, so I'm going to be very exhausted. But my plan for this flight to make it actually kind of fun and not as long and painful and exhausting as they usually are is using Webtoons. So on my last trip back to the States in the summer, I actually kind of experimented doing kind of this language challenge on a plane idea. However, what I actually used for that challenge was Do Chinese and Set the Reader, so like doing reading in Mandarin and Japanese. And for me, that's a very brain intensive activity, so I could not do it for long intensive bouts of time on the plane because there's a limit to how much I can actually focus on that intensive an activity at a time. And so even though my theory was, since I'm stuck in this seat for a long period of time, maybe I can like really push through and study a lot, it never ended up being that successful. I think my flight back from the States, I was relatively successful. I got like 5 or 6 hours of studying done, which is great, but it did take a lot of mental energy, maybe actually kind of more mentally tired, and it didn't really help pass the time and make the time go by faster. But since that trip, I started reading Webtoons again, Korean Webtoons, which my Korean level is actually high enough for me to be able to read these stories without taking actually too much mental effort. And they're also really engaging. And in the past couple months, there's been several times where I've just sat down on my bed and opened up a Webtoon to read, and I've literally read that day for like 5 or 6 hours straight without even realizing it. So I have a lot of hope that Webtoons can be my answer for, number one, helping pass the time of the flight a lot more quickly so that it doesn't feel like I am sitting there for 24 hours straight waiting to get home. And number two, it's actually fun and engaging and I really enjoy reading them. And so hopefully I'll just really enjoy this time. We'll see. So that's my hope for how I can make this flight both enjoyable and language immersive. If I'm able to sleep during the flight, I will still be choosing sleep over forcing myself to engage in language learning, of course. But like I mentioned before, I don't have the easiest time sleeping on airplanes for the most part. So I doubt I'm going to be able to sleep for most of the flight. So I'm hoping that Webtoons will be the secret key to keep me engaged for all that time I am awake on the flight. So yeah, that's my plan. I'm not sure how much of this journey I'm actually going to be able to film, but I will try to get a few clips here and there of this experience. So yeah, in the 2 hours I have left, I'm going to go ahead and take a quick shower, be as clean as possible going into this flight because they always make me feel so grungy. So I like to start as clean as I can. I'm going to eat my last huge meal because I don't really like airplane food very much. So I'm going to go ahead and eat my big meal, pack some snacks for the flight so I'm not starving when I arrive, and then pack up my last few little things for the trip. I am mostly clean and packed, but just a few more things I have to throw in the suitcase and I should be good to go. So yeah, I will check back in once this trip gets going. All right, so I made it to the airport. I'm wearing my comfy sweatshirt and sweatpants. My hair is out of the way in braids. And yeah, now I'm just hoping that the Wi-Fi works well on the flight because my last flight, the Wi-Fi was not very cooperative. So as long as I have decent Wi-Fi during the flight, I should be able to enjoy Webtoons all the way to the States.
Good.
Alright, so as you can see, I made it home safe and sound. Fortunately, unlike my last big flight to the US, there were no big delays or cancellations or anything that caused big problems in my itinerary. Although there was one big incident at the beginning of my first long flight, which was that the flight attendant poured milk all over me, which could have been a disaster because milk doesn't smell the best after it's been out for a while. But thankfully, I just so happened to have my waterproof jacket covering my lap at the time, so it all bounced right off the waterproof jacket and went on the floor. So thankfully, I could just wipe off my waterproof jacket really quickly, and you couldn't even tell that there was milk there in the first place, so phew, crisis averted there. But yeah, as far as languages go, the main focus of this video, I did manage to get some studying in. Since I am trying to read Chinese every single day, I did manage to start with some Mandarin reading on to Chinese while I had the most mental energy at the very beginning of the flight after the milk incident. And then after about 30 minutes of that, I moved on to Webtoons, the fun time-passing activity, and it was fun and time-passing. And between catching up on 5 different Webtoons, I managed to spend 4 hours or just over 4 hours reading Webtoons on the flight, which was very nice. So that kind of 4.5 hours or just over 4.5 hours of language activities took basically the first 6 hours of the flight, because I was taking a few breaks here and there to check texts and eat snacks and that kind of thing. So I wasn't straight studying the entire time. But after that kind of 6-hour period of doing 4.5 hours of language learning, I started to feel tired. And so I thought, awesome, hopefully I can sleep. And I did manage to sleep kind of off and on, not a beautiful, amazing one deep sleep, but I did manage to sleep basically for the rest of the flight. And so yeah, the time for the rest of the flight passed fairly quickly because I was, basically unconscious. And yeah, I will say after that, there was very little language learning to be done. During my long layover in Dallas, I didn't do any language learning at all. I just sat in a chair and listened to YouTube videos in English. Then on the hour-and-a-half-ish flight home, I did listen to the audio for those little Do Chinese lessons I had read earlier. But aside from that 5-10 minute activity, I didn't do anything else, but honestly, I'm okay with that. My main goal for this was not to have some super intensive language challenge, of course, but to make the travel day pass in a fun and engaging and hopefully mildly language learning related manner, which I did manage to do. I'm very happy with 4.5 hours. I calculated it out, and from the time I left my apartment in Korea to the time I arrived home in this house, it took basically 23 hours, so basically almost an entire full day. So in comparison to that, the 4.5 hours doesn't seem like that much time, but honestly, I'm still very happy. I did manage to sleep some during that time as well. So all in all, I'd say 4.5 hours is a big success. And I am planning on trying to use Webtoons on future flights as well, because it is, like I said, really fun and a way to pass the time very easily, which is what I'm looking for. The one downside to the Webtoons that I will say I didn't really foresee is the fact that I like to read these cheesy rom-com genre of Webtoons, and I usually read them in the comfort of my own home alone and not right next to somebody in the seat next to me who could easily look down and see my screen. And so I was a little self-conscious about reading a cheesy rom-com and rom-com scenes showing on the screen and stuff. So at times I was kind of shyly holding the screen up to my face when it was more of the lovey-dovey kind of scenes, just because I'm embarrassed and feel self-conscious easily. But aside from that one downside, everything else was a net positive. Thankfully, the Wi-Fi was cooperating with me, unlike my last flight, which was very spotty, so I could do all these activities very easily without any interruptions or long buffering times. There was some buffering, but not a ton, thankfully. And so yeah, looking forward to making this a regular part of my travel days, as it was overall a net positive. I'm also looking into doing some podcast stuff as well, possibly in the future for flights. In the past, I only had earbuds, and so I didn't do a lot of listening to things or watching movies on planes because my ears tend to hurt really easily from earbuds, and so I don't wear them for long periods of time. But now I have these nice over-the-ear noise canceling headphones, and so I figure I can do more of movie watching or podcast listening to on flights. And so I'm thinking about looking into some possible podcasts and stuff. So if you have any podcasts that you like in Korean, Mandarin, or Japanese, let me know, because I might be interested. But yeah, that's it for this little travel experience. Now that I'm home, I haven't really been doing much language stuff, to be totally honest. I've been watching a lot of dramas and lazing out and enjoying my vacation time for sure, but as far as productive, active stuff, not so much. I've even kind of fallen behind already on my new Chinese daily challenge, so That's not great, but hopefully I'll get back into it in the next few days. And honestly, like I said, it's vacation. It's fine if I, give myself a break here and there. But yeah, that's it for this little travel vlog, if you can call it that. I didn't really get many clips of me actually on the flight as I expected because I'm very, very shy, and having someone right next to me in the seat, I could not bring myself to actually film much at all. Even the clips that I did manage to get were when he's in the bathroom. So I'm very shy, self-conscious, but hopefully you enjoyed this video regardless. But yeah, that's it for this one. I'll see you guys in the next video, and until then, annyeong.